Okay, so welcome to what I'm calling my wildest parade adventures. Now, it's always great to be in a parade, but I'll tell you, being a Santa in a parade isn't sometimes all it's cracked up to be. Now, my first parades as Santa Claus were picture perfect. Picture San Clemente, California. Beautiful weather, cheering friends, and a route that rolled down the center of town right down to the ocean. I thought I knew exactly what to expect after that. And I did that for a few years. Then in 2007, Mrs. Claus and I moved to the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. And that's where things took a turn and got rather interesting. So I'm going to rank my Tennessee parades from smallest to biggest. So the first one I'm going to call the donkey cart. Now, Kodak. This was right at the exit where you get off to go into the Smoky Mountains. Picture this. Me and Mrs. Claus, all dressed up, decked out, a mule and a cart, crawling through the residential backroads at 1 mile an hour. The parade took well over an hour. The floats, if you can call them that, were practically non-existent, and sometimes we would go like 10 minutes without seeing a single onlooker. So that tells you how big that parade was. The next one I'm going to call the Blink and You Miss It. And that was in Sevierville. The Chamber of Commerce planned a route circling, the small park next to their office. And that was it. The whole parade lasted exactly 5 minutes. In fact, it was over so fast and was so uneventful that to this day, neither Mary nor I can even remember what we rode in or what it looked like. Oh, so, all right, so then there's Pigeon Forge, which is right next to Sevierville. In fact, we're going right up the road. We start in Kodak, then Sevierville, then Pigeon Forge. And I'm going to call this the Giant Sleigh. They have one of the biggest budgets in the area, if not the biggest. But their Christmas parade route was just a tiny 1-block square. But I gotta tell you, what made this whole thing hilarious is they put us in the most enormous sleigh you've ever seen. This thing was the size of a room. It was huge. And it swallowed us completely. Our heads barely peeked out over the edge. It was literally at the top, and we had our hats on. But besides that, we could have been naked in that sleigh for the whole 15-minute event, and no one would have ever known. That's how big this sucker was. So we're going to leave the Smoky Mountains for a little bit, and the next is the community of Fountain City, home to what I'm going to call Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. We did this one, and the first year we did it, it rained. Man, it was cold, we were freezing, soaked, and they loaded us into the open back of an antique fire truck. the crowd was great. I mean, even after the rain, the onlookers stayed and we said Merry Christmas to everybody. But the aftermath was terrifying. To get us back to the start, the driver decided to careen 3 miles through the town as if he was actually going to a fire. Oh my God. We returned half frozen and blown to bits. Well, we went ahead and did a second year. Year 2, the weather cooperated. The weather wasn't bad. It was good. But the truck drove even faster coming back, desperately hanging on to our hats, our costumes, and our lives. We decided we had had enough and graciously declined future invitations. There's only so much I'm going to risk with my wife. So, now, as a disclaimer, don't get me wrong. Being the grand finale of any parade is a blast. But, as you can hear, it's not always the magical winter wonderland people envision. It involves a lot of waiting around and some very unusual circumstances. And now, if you're enjoying these little peeks of what it's really like to be a Santa Claus, hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures from behind the beard. Okay, that said, that brings us to what I'll call the main event. Wow, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Gatlinburg does things differently. Their major Christmas and 4th of July parades always start precisely at the stroke of midnight. As with any major movie production, you have to arrive hours early. For a midnight parade like that, we get there and set up right around 9:30 p.m. and wouldn't be able to drag ourselves back home and get into bed until well after 3 a.m. 3 a.m. We were exhausted and starving. Oh my God. But I'll tell you, wishing hundreds of thousands of spectators Merry Christmas and seeing all the joy and happiness made it all worth it. In fact, we even did their famous 4th of July parade, which is the first 4th of July parade in the country because it takes place at midnight at the stroke on Eastern Standard Time in Gatlinburg. So, but anyway, I was able to do their famous 4th of July parade in full Thomas Nast patriotic gear. And we'll show you a picture of what this looks like. And Mary was all decked out in patriotic gear as well. So that was fun as well. I gotta say, that was a load of fun. And again, hundreds of thousands of spectators come out to this, even though it's at midnight. So quite honestly, I mean, that was probably our highlight. So we've gone from a lonely donkey cart to a nationally recognized midnight parade. So I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly from the back of the sleigh. It's exhausting, it's unpredictable, and sometimes even terrifying. But I'd gladly do almost all of them again. So now it's your turn. I want to hear from you. What is your absolute favorite memory from a local holiday parade? Big or small, I don't care. I want to hear them all. Have you ever ridden in one? Or is there a specific float or tradition that you look forward to seeing every year? I mean, those people in Gatlinburg come year after year after year at midnight. I'd love to hear if you do anything similar to that. Drop your stories in the comments below. Both Mrs. Claus and I would love to read them, and I'll respond to almost every single one of them. Now, again, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures from behind the beard. And until next time, stay merry. Ho, 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 ho.